Green Lantern Dark, issue 4, Tate Brombal writing with Werther Delledera on the art. Alright, this is the last book you have to talk about, Matt. You must be...
I know, and I read this so long ago, I don't remember much of it, so...
Oh no.
That's I'm going to hang on and go for a ride here.
Yeah, I mean, obviously there's a little bit more of the BatWraith early on, and he shows up again at the end, actually, I'm saying that. But we start kind of with the Providence, this paradise area that the villain's kind of running. And she is kind of frustrated with Grundy regrowing. She wants to deal with this Green Lantern. You know, it's a whole thing. So Demona is her name, which I was looking for there because I couldn't remember it. But
gotcha.
She's you know, like we find out a bit more what she's doing. We get a bit more of her personality, but we quite quickly go back to our main character, our Green Lantern, talking to the BatWraith, and the BatWraith's basically trying to convince her that, you know, she's the one person who might be able to take on this Demona, and that this has to happen. And she's not really wanting to. She's also frustrated with this Beast Boy character that the kid has now like attached herself to, and like, no, he's coming with us. You know, it's the whole thing. So Lynette's really into the Beast, who she now says, oh, he says his name is Gar, but it's kind of like an open-ended thing where it sounds like he might have just like grrred at her, and she's read that as Gar. But they're like, hey,
it works.
Yeah, so they have to go and like try and find shelter for the night. They find this town that's nearby, Port Arbor, which is supposed to have people in it. Like, they've seen people in here recently, but it's empty, and like, what's going on? And it turns out that there's these like leeches, these like telepathic leeches that are kind of around. So both Green Lantern and I think, is it Gar? Is it Beast Boy? Yeah, they both get kind of like frozen, and they're both kind of in their head in like another dimension looking at these kids, and they're like, hey, that's us. Like, she recognizes her younger self, Gar recognizes his younger self, and he even kind of speaks here for the first time. So it's like, okay, what's going on here? And the kids back in the real world are like, wait, what's going on? Why are they not moving? Why are they standing there catatonic? This is weird and creepy. So this is a really good excuse for the artist to do some really cool like atmospheric horror stuff, because we get like, you know, young Green Lantern with her sort of emo phase haircut, and she's like on her farmhouse, and she's like freaking out, and she's running to her,
a big rumble and a lightning bolt with the green, and the green on the black looks really striking. So
and it seems to be like it's showing how she got her powers at the same time that Gar got his Beast Boy powers, because he was just a kid, and they're both reaching out to touch something that's glowing green in her case, glowing purple in his case. And you know, it seems like she gets zapped with this green energy. He kind of starts to mutate into a monster. So it's all just really good art, and it's really atmospheric and all this stuff. The kids back in the real world throw some water on them to try and wake them up, and that doesn't work, and they're like, oh no, what's happening? And that's when the BatWraith shows up. There's a spooky shadow and a voice, and like, oh god, what's that? And he explains that these are dread leeches, and that they're all over this town. And luckily I'm no man, and I am the spirit, I'm the BatWraith, I am the endless void, blah blah blah. So he speaks like Batman still. That's worth mentioning.
And that, you know, he's going to allow the leeches to drink their fill on him, right? Because that's the only way they'll detach from Green Lantern and Beast Boy.
Yeah, they'll basically OD if they drink too much dread, and because he's BatWraith, they'll overdose on him. And so he does this, and like in their head, like Green Lantern's just this green glowing energy of a girl, and she's like confused as to what's happening, and then BatWraith tries to explain it to her. But we get this whole big moment where they finally snap out, and we get there's a big 2-page layout of all this stuff fractured, and then there's like a big single-page spread of like him blasting these leeches away as they kind of OD. And you know, Lynette's happy that she's okay, and they're kind of whatever. And this actually kind of helps convince Green Lantern to like maybe help, when like, because she's pissed that this has happened to her, that someone messed with her brain. And it turns out, these are for Demona. And when she shines her light up to see if there's any more of these leeches, there's like tons of them. They're all over the town, like on the walls and on the trees and stuff. And it's like, shit, the town's infested. So she's like, okay, we're going to have to burn all these things out, and she starts killing them. But yeah, the big reveal at the end of the issue though is that the other kid, right, the boy, who's with them,
the brother,
he's like crying as he's lying in the tent when they're sleeping, and you hear like bubbles coming from him, and you see like a sort of like bit of energy coming from his like face. And you realize that he's talking to Diona, like she or Demona. She's been like working with him, or she's got him under a spell, and she's influencing him. So he's like a little double agent, who's talking back to her. And
she's told him to let all the tears out. So it's almost like she's also feeding on his sadness.
Yes. And she's like, talk to dear Demona. Almost as she might as well say, talk to mummy, like let mummy help you, kind of thing.
Yep.
That's the vibe of this, but it is a super cool like horror style page at the end. This full page with the scratchy shadows and just the glow of her butterflies around them. It feels like she's preying on the young. Even at the start of the issue, way back at the first scene, there was people arriving in her town, and she was splitting up the parents from the kids because the parents are going to go and like be tortured to help fuel the town because she feeds off the dread and like the misery. Yep. But the kids have to go work somewhere else, so it feels really horrific that the parents just let their kid be taken away from them. But it kind of suggests that she has influence and like kind of can convince them to do stuff. So it's going to be a big deal when the brothers like sort of like, I don't know, maybe not possession, but kind of like the puppeteering that's going on from Demona is revealed at some point. But no, I mean, once again, the art's really good. I think that the plot's probably the least interesting it's been. Like the whole the Dread Leech thing. Like I wasn't expecting that to be the plot of most of the issue, and then when it took up the rest of it, I was like, okay, all right, fair enough. It was. It served its purpose, but it wasn't as interesting as going to the castle to save Lynette last time and finding out about the BatWraith and Beast Boy. It wasn't as interesting as saving the town in the first issue. Like I think the core plot of this issue, while still perfectly solid, was probably the least exciting one of all the issues. But it's still very, very solid overall, and the art's still gorgeous, and there's still like a sort of dark sense of humor to some of it as well, which is really nice, mixed in with all the sort of like ethereal horror that this world kind of has. So I still dig it a lot.
And it's a bit different than the Tangent universe, like from what I was thinking it's going to be. This is like a very much a DC horror universe, like with what we saw with Beast Boy and his transformation. It's a lot more grotesque than what we're used to.
Yeah, that felt like
kind of the creature.
Yeah, it felt like body horror is what I was going to say.
Yeah, and then like with the ethereal, like it's still like an alien crash landing that Green Lantern finds, but it's a bit more mystical, right? Yeah. So it hits that horror aspect more too. So it's playing with these themes that we're familiar with, but it's doing it in its own way. And then that last page of Demona, that is straight up horror filmmaking, right? Or horror symbology with that tendril coming out of her forehead and wiping the tear away. It's super creepy. So it's hitting the vibes a lot.
Also, that opening in her head where this tendril's coming out is vaguely vagina shaped. I'm just going to point out.
Well, and she's acting as mother, so I mean, it can't be lost on it,
No, yeah, I think it's intentional, but I just didn't notice that until now as I'm looking at it.
Gotcha.
So,
but good stuff all the way around.
Yeah. Getting a hint of who this Green Lantern was before she became the Green Lantern is also kind of interesting, just to see, who she was before, and she's this little emo kid. And I'm just basing that in the hair more than anything else.
Yeah. Well, she definitely had a goth phase. She has the short bangs, long straight hair. Don't tell me what to do, mom and dad type vibe. So, but yeah, no. I'm really enjoying Tate BROMBAL between Batgirl and this. Some real fun storytelling going on here.
Yeah, and there's definitely a lot of themes in this book, and this has been through all the issues of like children and parents and them being separated, or indeed in some cases like being neglectful, and like the children needing someone new to like help them. Like that's definitely because the Green Lanterns kind of became that for Lynette and her brother, and that was something that's kind of been a big part of it. So finding out that she was, like, not that her parents hated her or anything, but they basically don't chase after her when she like says, "Oh, I'm leaving. I hate both of you." Yeah, they basically just shrug and go, "Well, she'll be back when it rains." Like that's they just kind of leave her to it. and she ends up finding a Green Lantern thing. So cool. All right, what were you rating Green Lantern Dark?
I'm giving this an 8.5. I really enjoyed this issue.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think 8.5. It's still really, really good. As much as I think it's a little like less great than the previous few, it's not because it's a big step down or anything. It's just, you know, those plots were just a bit more special, ultimately.